Ambassador Zektar stood before the massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council's war room, watching the final preparations for what they called the cleansing protocol. The device hung in space like a metallic moon, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with deadly energy. Around him, representatives from 12 different species observed in tense silence. "The humans have refused our final ultimatum," announced High Chancellor Vorth, her crystalline voice echoing through the chamber. "They continue to expand their influence across disputed territories. Their military forces show no signs of withdrawal from the Outer Rim systems." Zektar's forearms trembled slightly. As the Kethari representative, he had spent decades studying human behavior patterns. Something felt wrong about this entire situation, but he couldn't place exactly what bothered him. "Chancellor," he spoke carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider. Human tactical responses have been unusual lately. Their fleets seem to be moving in patterns we don't recognize." The Vraxian War Minister, General Thok, slammed his massive fist against the council table. "Enough delays. The humans threaten our established order. Their rapid expansion threatens every civilized world in this galaxy. We activate the Omega device now, or we lose everything we've built over millennia." Around the room, other council members nodded in agreement. The hegemony of worlds had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. They had faced rebellious species before, but humans presented a unique challenge. In less than 3 centuries since achieving faster-than-light travel, humanity had established colonies on over 200 worlds. Their military tactics proved unpredictable, their diplomatic methods unconventional, and their technology advanced at an alarming rate. "The device is fully charged," reported Chief Technician Mora from her station. The reptilian engineer's scales shifted from blue to deep purple, indicating high stress levels. "All targeting systems are locked onto human-controlled space. The quantum cascade will eliminate all human presence in the galaxy within 6 standard hours." Zektar felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The Omega device represented the pinnacle of hegemony weapons technology. Developed over centuries by their greatest scientists, it could target specific genetic markers across vast distances. Once activated, it would send deadly quantum waves through hyperspace, reaching every human in the galaxy simultaneously. "What about their allies?" asked Minister Yull of the Fennec Confederation. "Several species have formed military pacts with humanity." "Collateral damage." General Thok dismissed the concern with a wave. "Those species chose their side unwisely. The galaxy will be better without their influence." High Chancellor Vorth raised her staff, calling for formal vote. All in favor of immediate activation. One by one, hands, tentacles, and claws rose across the chamber. Zektar hesitated, then slowly raised 2 of his forearms. The vote was unanimous. "Activate the Omega device," Chancellor Vorth commanded. Chief Technician Mora's claws danced across her control console. Warning lights flashed as massive energies began building within the device. On the viewing screen, they could see space itself beginning to distort around the weapon. "Energy building to critical levels," Mora announced. "Quantum cascade will initiate in 60 seconds. Zektar watched the countdown timer with growing unease. Intelligence reports from the past few months had shown strange patterns in human fleet movements. Their massive warships had been pulling back from contested borders. Trade convoys had changed routes. Even their civilian populations seemed to be relocating in unusual numbers. 50 seconds to activation, Mora continued. "Sir," interrupted a junior technician at a monitoring station, "we're detecting unusual readings from human space." General Thok growled impatiently. "What kind of readings?" "Massive energy signatures, sir. But they're not weapons. They appear to be transportation-related." Chancellor Vortha's crystalline features showed confusion. "Transportation? Explain." The technician's antenna twitched nervously. "The energy patterns match theoretical designs for large-scale spatial displacement. But the scale is unprecedented." 20 seconds to activation, Mora announced, her voice steady despite her obvious stress. Zektar's unease transformed into genuine alarm. "Chancellor, perhaps we should delay." 10 seconds. 9. 8. On the viewing screen, the Omega device began to glow with terrible light. 7. 6. 5. Across the galaxy, in the space where human colonies should be, sensor arrays detected something impossible. Entire star systems were simply empty. 4, 3, 2. Chancellor, the junior technician shouted. Human space is empty. The colonies are gone. The fleets are gone. Everything is gone. 1, 0. The Omega device fired. Quantum waves raced across the galaxy at impossible speeds, carrying death designed specifically for human genetic patterns. They swept through the outer rim territories where human colonies had flourished just days before. The deadly energy cascaded through the core worlds where human trade stations had operated for decades. It washed over every system where human presence had been detected. The waves found nothing. For several minutes, the council chamber remained in stunned silence. Finally, Chancellor Vorth spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Report. Chief Technician Mora checked her instruments 3 times before responding. The device functioned perfectly. Quantum cascade reached all targeted areas. But, sir, there were no targets. Human presence in the galaxy reads as 0. That's impossible, General Fox snarled. They had over 200 colonies, thousands of ships, billions of people. All gone, sir, the junior technician confirmed. Our long-range sensors show abandoned facilities. Empty space where their fleets should be. It's as if humanity simply left. Zektar felt his worst fears being confirmed. When? He asked quietly. When did they leave? The technician worked frantically at his console. Based on residual energy patterns and debris analysis, the last human presence we can detect was approximately 72 hours ago. 3 days, Chancellor Vorth repeated slowly. They've been gone for 3 days. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Humanity had somehow anticipated the Omega device. They had evacuated their entire galactic presence before the weapon fired. 200 colonies, millions of ships, billions of people, all relocated to destinations unknown. How? General Thok demanded. How did they know? Security around this project was absolute. But Zektar was beginning to understand. He thought about the strange patterns in human behavior over the past year. Their diplomatic missions had become shorter and more focused. Their trade agreements had included unusual clauses about rapid contract termination. Their military exercises had emphasized mobility over territorial defense. They didn't know, he said slowly. They planned for this possibility. Impossible, Chancellor Vorth protested. The Omega device was classified at the highest levels. Only council members and senior technicians knew of its existence. They didn't need to know about the device specifically, Zektar explained. They knew about us. They understood that eventually we would try to eliminate them. So they prepared. The room fell silent as the truth sank in. Humanity hadn't just escaped the Omega device. They had anticipated the need to abandon everything they had built in the galaxy. They had spent years, perhaps decades, preparing for total evacuation. But where did they go? Minister Yull asked. They can't survive indefinitely in deep space. Chief Technician Mora was still analyzing her sensor data. Sir, I'm detecting residual traces of exotic matter. The energy signatures suggest dimensional displacement, meaning they didn't just leave our galaxy, sir. Based on these readings, they left our entire dimensional space. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions and accusations. General Thok demanded immediate pursuit. Chancellor Vorth called for order. Through the noise, Zektar stared at the viewing screen where the Omega device continued to pulse with dying energy. They had built the ultimate weapon to eliminate humanity. They had fired it with perfect accuracy and devastating power. And they were 3 days too late. Somewhere beyond the reach of their sensors, beyond the boundaries of known space, humanity continued to exist. They had taken their technology, their knowledge, their entire civilization, and simply left. The hegemony of worlds had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had defeated every challenge to their authority. They possessed weapons that could destroy entire star systems. But they had never faced an enemy that could simply disappear. As the chaos continued around him, Zektar wondered if they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had tried to eliminate humanity and failed. Now, somewhere in the vast unknown, billions of humans were alive, free, and undoubtedly planning their next move. The war was far from over. In fact, it might have just begun. And the hegemony had just revealed their ultimate weapon to an enemy they could no longer find. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, watching the swirling colors of dimensional space pass by the viewport. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the massive convoy that followed behind them. 12 billion humans and their allies were making the greatest journey in the history of their species. Navigation report, she called out. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb looked up from his console. Dimensional transit proceeding normally, Captain. The entire fleet is maintaining formation. We should reach the target coordinates in 18 hours. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained tense. 3 days ago, they had received the final warning from the Galactic Council. The hegemony had given humanity 72 hours to withdraw from all disputed territories or face total elimination. What the Council didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for nearly 30 years. Any word from the rear guard? She asked. Commander Elena Vasquez, the ship's intelligence officer, checked her displays. Admiral Thompson's fleet is maintaining position at the dimensional barrier. They're monitoring Council space through quantum sensors. No signs of pursuit yet. The evacuation had been the largest military operation in human history. Every colony, every space station, every ship in the galaxy had been relocated through dimensional gateways that human scientists had spent decades perfecting. The technology was based on theories that most galactic species considered impossible: the ability to step outside normal space-time and travel to alternate dimensional layers. Captain, called out Dr. James Liu from the science station. I'm reading massive quantum disturbances from our origin dimension. The pattern matches theoretical predictions for an Omega-class weapon discharge. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Human intelligence had suspected the Council possessed such a weapon, but confirmation still shocked her. Timestamp on the discharge. Approximately 6 hours ago, Captain. They actually did it, Commander Vasquez said quietly. They fired a planet-killer weapon at empty space. Not empty, Sarah corrected. They fired it where we should have been. If we hadn't evacuated. She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge understood. The Omega device would have killed every human in the galaxy within hours. Men, women, children, elderly. Everyone would have died in agony as quantum energy tore their bodies apart at the cellular level. Captain, Lieutenant Webb reported. Admiral Kumar is requesting conference. Priority 1. Put him through. The main screen flickered, showing Admiral Dev Kumar aboard the command vessel Earth's Pride. Behind him, Sarah could see the bustling activity of a ship coordinating the movements of billions of people. Sarah, the Admiral said without preamble, we've got confirmation. The Council fired their superweapon exactly 73 hours after their final ultimatum. Our timing was perfect. What's our status, sir? All colonial populations have been successfully evacuated. The industrial platforms are through the dimensional barrier. Even the long-range survey fleets made it to the rendezvous points. Total human casualties, 0. Sarah felt profound relief, followed immediately by grim determination. And the Council, sir? Intelligence suggests they're in chaos. They expected to find human corpses floating in space. Instead, they found empty star systems and abandoned facilities. We've successfully pulled off the greatest disappearing act in galactic history. Dr. Liu spoke up from his station. Admiral, what about the other species? Our allies. Admiral Kumar's expression darkened. The Council classified anyone allied with humanity as collateral damage. The Fennec traders who worked with our merchant fleet, the Altarian research stations that shared scientific data with us, the Zephyrian colonies that signed mutual defense pacts, they were all targeted. Sir, Sarah asked, already suspecting the answer. They evacuated with us. Every species that faced Council persecution for association with humanity. We couldn't save them all, but we saved everyone we could reach in time. The magnitude of what they had accomplished was staggering. Not only had humanity escaped total genocide, but they had rescued dozens of other species from the same fate. The dimensional convoy now included populations from across the galaxy, all united by their refusal to submit to hegemony tyranny. Where do we stand on resources, Admiral? Commander Vasquez asked. Better than expected. The industrial platforms are already setting up manufacturing in dimensional space. The agricultural ships are maintaining food production. Our refugee allies brought significant technological resources. We're not just surviving, we're thriving. And militarily? Admiral Kumar smiled grimly. That's classified for now, Commander. But let's just say that 30 years of preparation included more than just evacuation planning. Sarah understood. While publicly working toward diplomatic solutions, humanity had been quietly preparing for war. The same dimensional technology that allowed their evacuation had other applications the Council would soon discover. Captain Sean, the Admiral continued, your ship has been selected for a special mission. We're sending you back to our origin dimension. Sir, reconnaissance and first contact. We need intelligence on Council activities, and we need to establish communication with any remaining resistance groups. You'll take the New Horizon through dimensional space and set up a hidden observation post. Admiral, Dr. Liu interjected, our dimensional shielding should make us undetectable to Council sensors. But if they've developed new detection methods, then we'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, we need eyes and ears in our former territory. Sarah nodded. When do we depart, sir? As soon as we reach the staging area. 18 hours from now, you'll take your ship and a small fleet back through the dimensional barrier. Your mission is to gather intelligence and prepare for Phase 2. Phase 2, sir. Admiral Kumar's smile became predatory. The Council thinks they've eliminated the human threat. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Humanity didn't just run away, we regrouped. And now it's our turn to surprise them. The communication ended, leaving the bridge crew in contemplative silence. Sarah looked around at her officers, people who had dedicated their careers to exploration and peaceful discovery. Now they were part of the largest military operation humanity had ever attempted. Captain, Lieutenant Webb said quietly, do you think we can actually win against the entire hegemony? Sarah considered the question carefully. The Galactic Council controlled thousands of worlds and commanded fleets that numbered in the millions. They had weapons that could destroy planets and the industrial capacity of civilizations that span millennia. The Council made one critical mistake, she finally answered. They assumed we would fight them the same way previous species did, with traditional fleets, conventional tactics, and linear thinking. And we won't. Look around you, Lieutenant. 3 days ago, we were scattered across 200 star systems, vulnerable and exposed. Today, we're traveling through dimensional space in a convoy that shouldn't be possible according to Council science. We've taken our entire civilization outside the boundaries of known reality. Dr. Liu nodded understanding. The Council still thinks in terms of controlling territory and destroying enemies. But we're not playing by their rules anymore. Exactly. They can't fight what they can't find. They can't predict tactics based on technology they don't understand. And they certainly can't win a war against an enemy that can literally exist outside their reach. Commander Vasquez pulled up tactical displays on her console. Captain, the Council's strength has always been their ability to overwhelm enemies with superior numbers and firepower. But dimensional warfare changes everything. How so? Think about it. They have to defend thousands of worlds simultaneously. We can attack from dimensional space, strike wherever we choose, and retreat before they can respond. We've turned their greatest strength, their size, into their greatest weakness. Sarah nodded. And there's something else. The Council just revealed their ultimate weapon to us. They showed us exactly what they're capable of when threatened. Now we know their capabilities, their tactics, and their willingness to commit genocide. But they know nothing about ours, Lieutenant Webb realized. Nothing at all. As far as they know, humanity simply vanished. They have no idea we're still alive, still organized, and still armed. When we're ready to act, it will come as a complete shock. The bridge fell silent again as they contemplated the coming conflict. Through the viewport, the swirling energies of dimensional space continued their eternal dance. Somewhere beyond that barrier, the Galactic Council believed they had achieved total victory. They were about to learn otherwise. Sarah thought about the billions of humans and their allies traveling with the convoy. Children who would grow up free from hegemony oppression. Scientists who could pursue knowledge without Council restrictions. Artists, farmers, soldiers, teachers, all of them alive because humanity had refused to accept inevitable defeat. The Council had tried to eliminate the human spirit by eliminating human lives. Instead, they had forged that spirit into something harder, more determined, and infinitely more dangerous. Set course for the staging area, Sarah commanded. And prepare for dimensional translation in 18 hours. We're going back to fight. Yes, Captain, her crew responded in unison. The New Horizon continued its journey through impossible space, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of billions of refugees. Behind them, the greatest evacuation in galactic history neared completion. Ahead of them lay an uncertain future filled with danger and possibility. But, for the first time in 30 years, humanity was no longer at the mercy of the Galactic Council. The war for freedom was about to begin. Ambassador Zektar walked through the corridors of the Hegemony Intelligence Headquarters, his 4 arms carrying data tablets filled with disturbing reports. 2 weeks had passed since the Omega device fired, and the galaxy had become a very different place. What should have been a time of celebration following humanity's elimination had instead become a period of growing unease. Ambassador, called Director Mordak from behind him. The Vraxian intelligence chief's massive frame moved with surprising grace as he caught up. Do you have the analysis I requested? Zektar's exoskeleton rippled with stress patterns. Yes, Director. And you're not going to like what I found. They entered Mordak's private office, a vast chamber lined with monitoring screens displaying intelligence data from across the galaxy. The director sealed the room and activated privacy shields before speaking. Show me. Zektar placed his tablets on the desk and activated a holographic display. I've been analyzing the abandoned human facilities as you requested. The patterns are troubling. The hologram showed a 3-dimensional map of former human space. Red markers indicated abandoned colonies. Blue markers showed empty military installations, and green markers represented deserted trade stations. As you can see, Zektar began, the evacuation was incredibly thorough. But it's the details that concern me. He manipulated the display, zooming in on specific locations. Look at this colonial administration building on Kepler 442b. The evacuation was so organized that they filed proper departure documents with the local port authority. They actually followed bureaucratic procedures while fleeing for their lives. Mordak's brow ridges furrowed. That's unusual. It gets worse. Look at the military installations. The display shifted to show empty fleet bases. They didn't just abandon these facilities, they sabotaged them systematically. But not with explosives or crude destruction. They used precision techniques that disabled infrastructure without causing permanent damage. I don't understand. They could have destroyed these bases completely, denying us any useful intelligence. Instead, they disabled them in ways that could be repaired. It's as if they expect to return. Mordak studied the data carefully. What about their industrial capacity? Zektar's stress patterns intensified. That's where it gets truly concerning. Our initial reports suggested they abandoned their manufacturing platforms. But detailed analysis shows something different. The hologram changed to show vast industrial complexes floating in space. They didn't abandon these facilities, Director. They moved them. All of them. Moved them where? That's the question I can't answer. We found residual energy patterns suggesting massive spatial displacement events. But the destination coordinates make no sense according to our understanding of physics. Mordak leaned back in his chair, which groaned under his weight. Zektar, what exactly are you telling me? I'm telling you that humanity didn't just run away. They executed the most sophisticated strategic withdrawal in galactic history. They preserved their entire industrial base, maintained their population, and left infrastructure they could reclaim later. But that's impossible. Where could they have gone with that many people and that much equipment? Before Zektar could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the building. Emergency lights bathed the room in red as Director Mordak's communication console activated. Director, came the urgent voice of the watch officer. We have priority alerts coming in from across the galaxy. Something's happening in the outer rim sectors. The patterns are unlike anything in our tactical databases. Mordak and Zektar exchanged glances. Route the data to my office immediately, the director ordered. Within minutes. their displays filled with urgent reports from across Council space. Zektar felt his worst fears being confirmed as he read through the incoming intelligence. Kepler sector. Council listening post destroyed by unknown attackers. Witnesses described ships that appeared from empty space, fired advanced weapons, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Vega system. Orbital defense platform disabled by energy weapons of unknown configuration. Attack lasted exactly 4 minutes. No casualties among station personnel, but all military equipment rendered inoperable. Proxima Centauri. Trade convoy intercepted by unidentified fleet. Cargo confiscated, crews released unharmed. Ships described as using technology not found in Council databases. The reports continued flooding in. Across former human territory, Council installations were being systematically attacked by forces that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Director, Zektar said quietly, I think we have our answer about where humanity went. Meaning, they're still here. Not in our space exactly, but close enough to strike. These attack patterns match human tactical doctrine, but the technology is far advanced from anything they showed us before. Mordak studied the tactical displays showing attack locations. The timing is too coordinated for coincidence. This is a planned military campaign. And look at the targets, Zektar pointed out. They're not attacking population centers or civilian infrastructure. Every target is military or intelligence-related. They're systematically destroying our ability to monitor and control former human space. More reports arrived, each one more disturbing than the last. The mysterious attackers seemed to possess technology that violated known physics. Ships that could become invisible to sensors. Weapons that could disable electronics without harming living beings. The ability to appear and disappear at will. Sir, the watch officer's voice called through the comm system. We're receiving a transmission from the unknown forces. They're requesting direct communication with hegemony leadership. Routa here, Mordak commanded. The main display flickered, then showed the interior of what appeared to be a starship bridge. A human woman in a military uniform sat in the captain's chair, her expression calm but determined. Greetings, Director Mordak, she said, somehow knowing exactly who she was addressing. I am Admiral Sarachun of the Free Human Alliance. I believe we need to talk. Mordak's shock was visible even through his stoic Phraxian features. You're supposed to be dead. The Omega device missed us completely. Admiral Chun interrupted with a slight smile. Did you really think we would wait around to be exterminated? We've been preparing for this possibility for 3 decades. Where are you? Mordak demanded. Our sensors show no ships in this system. We're exactly where we choose to be. Which brings me to the reason for this communication. The Galactic Council attempted genocide against humanity and our allies. That action has consequences. Zektar leaned forward. What kind of consequences? Admiral Chin's expression became cold. The kind that reshaped galactic politics. For 10,000 years, the hegemony has ruled through fear and overwhelming force. You've suppressed younger species, restricted technological development, and maintained power through violence. The Council maintains order, Mordak protested. Without hegemony guidance, the galaxy would fall into chaos. Your version of order requires the extinction of anyone who threatens your authority. We refuse to accept that reality. What do you want? Director Mordak asked bluntly. Initially, we wanted peaceful coexistence. We tried diplomacy, trade negotiations, and mutual cooperation. The Council responded with ultimatums and genocide weapons. So now we want something different. Which is, Admiral Chin stood from her chair, her image dominating the display. We want the hegemony to surrender unconditionally. The office fell silent. Finally, Mordak found his voice. That's impossible. We command fleets numbering in the millions. We control thousands of worlds. You're a single species with no territory. Director, you still don't understand what you're facing. Humanity didn't just evacuate our territory, we evolved. 30 years of preparation included technological development the Council never suspected. We've mastered dimensional warfare, quantum stealth systems, and weapons that make your Omega device look like a children's toy. You're bluffing. Admiral Chin's smile returned, but it was not friendly. Am I? In the past 6 hours, we've disabled 43 Council military installations across 12 star systems. We've done this without losing a single ship or inflicting a single casualty. Our forces can strike anywhere in Council space and retreat before you can respond. She gestured to something off-screen, and new data appeared on their displays. Technical specifications for weapons and ships that violated everything they understood about physics. This is impossible, Zektar whispered as he studied the data. These energy readings suggest technology centuries beyond current galactic standards. Not impossible, Admiral Chen corrected. Just developed outside Council oversight. When you forced us to leave known space, we had to innovate. The results exceeded our own expectations. Mordak tried to regain control of the conversation. Even with advanced technology, you can't conquer the galaxy with a single species. We're not a single species anymore, Director. Remember the collateral damage the Council accepted when targeting humanity? Every species you marked for extinction is now part of our alliance. We represent over 30 different civilizations, all united by a common experience of hegemony oppression. The implications hit both intelligence officers simultaneously. The Council had inadvertently created the largest multi-species alliance in galactic history by threatening genocide against anyone associated with humanity. You have 48 hours to respond to our surrender demand, Admiral Chen continued. After that, we begin Phase 2 of our operations. What's Phase 2? Zektar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. Admiral Chen's expression became absolutely serious. Phase 1 was demonstrating our capabilities. Phase 2 is demonstrating our resolve. We will systematically dismantle every Council military installation in the galaxy. We will liberate every oppressed species under hegemony rule. We will end 10,000 years of tyranny. The Council will never surrender, Mordak stated firmly. Then, the Council will fall. But, Director, consider this. We could have begun this campaign with the total destruction of Council leadership. We could have eliminated every ship in your fleets without warning. Instead, we're offering you a chance to surrender with honor. Why? Because despite everything you've done, we don't want to rule through fear the way you have. We want to build a galaxy where different species can coexist peacefully. But we won't allow the hegemony to continue threatening extinction against anyone who challenges your authority. The transmission ended, leaving Mordak and Zektar alone in the suddenly quiet office. Around them, emergency alerts continued to sound as more reports arrived of mysterious attacks across Council space. Zektar, Mordak said finally, "What's your professional assessment?" The Kethari ambassador considered carefully before answering. "I believe we just witnessed the end of the hegemony as we know it. Humanity has become something we never anticipated, a force that exists outside our ability to control or predict. And their surrender demand? Given their demonstrated capabilities, I would recommend the Council consider it seriously." Mordak's expression showed his internal conflict. The idea of hegemony surrender was almost unthinkable after 10 millennia of dominance. But the alternative appeared to be a war they could not win against an enemy they could not find. Outside the building, across the galaxy, the Free Human Alliance continued its methodical campaign against Council military power. Ships appeared from dimensional space, struck with precision, and vanished before defenders could respond. The hegemony had 48 hours to choose between surrender and destruction. And for the first time in 10,000 years, their choice would determine the future of galactic civilization. High Chancellor Vorth stood in the emergency session chamber, her crystalline form reflecting the chaos of the past 46 hours. Around her, representatives from every major Council species argued with increasing desperation as reports of the Free Human Alliance's capabilities continued to arrive. "They've destroyed another 6 installations in the past hour." General Thok slammed his massive fist against the podium. "Our fleets can't even detect them until they're already attacking." "Destroyed is not accurate," corrected Minister Yell, consulting his data tablet. "They've systematically disabled every installation without causing permanent damage or casualties. It's surgical precision on a scale we've never seen." Ambassador Zektar spoke from his position near the viewing screens. "The pattern is clear. They're not trying to commit genocide like we attempted. They're demonstrating absolute military superiority while offering us a path to survival. Survival through surrender." General Thok roared. The hegemony does not surrender. The hegemony has never faced an enemy like this, Zektar replied calmly. Our traditional advantages, superior numbers, established territory, overwhelming firepower, mean nothing against forces that can exist outside normal spacetime. Chancellor Vorth called for order, her voice amplified through the chamber's crystal resonance system. We have less than 2 hours remaining before their deadline expires. We must reach a decision. Chief Technician Mora approached the central podium, her scaled hands carrying the latest analysis reports. Chancellor, I've completed the technical assessment of their demonstrated capabilities. The results are disturbing. Explain. Mora activated a holographic display showing recent battle footage. Their ships utilize what we can only describe as dimensional phasing technology. They exist partially outside our reality, making them immune to conventional weapons while allowing them to strike us at will. The hologram showed a human vessel materializing from empty space, firing precisely targeted energy bursts that disabled a Council defense platform, then vanishing again in less than 30 seconds. Furthermore, Mora continued, their weapons appear to be specifically designed to disable rather than destroy. They're using quantum disruption fields that shut down electronics without harming organic life. It would have been easier for them to build weapons of mass destruction. Your point? General Thok demanded. My point is that they're demonstrating restraint even while proving their superiority. If they wanted to commit genocide against us, they clearly possess the capability. Instead, they're offering terms. Director Mordak entered the chamber, his massive form moving urgently toward the leadership platform. Chancellor, I have new intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. Report. We've detected the source of their operations. The humans have constructed what can only be described as a mobile civilization in dimensional space. Our best estimates suggest they've relocated their entire species, plus dozens of allied civilizations, into a parallel dimensional layer. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Chancellor Vortha's crystalline features shifted to display confusion. Are you saying they've created an alternate reality? Not created, accessed. Human scientists appear to have developed technology that allows them to exist in dimensional space while maintaining the ability to interact with normal reality. It's theoretically possible, but we considered the engineering requirements far beyond any known species. Zektar felt his stress patterns intensifying. How many people are we talking about? Conservative estimates suggest over 15 billion individuals across 40-plus species. They've essentially created a shadow galaxy that exists alongside our own. Minister Yul spoke up from his monitoring station. Director, what are the military implications of this capability? Complete tactical superiority. They can observe our every move while remaining undetectable. They can strike any target in the galaxy and retreat to safety beyond our reach. They can relocate their entire civilization instantly if threatened. General Thok's expression showed a mixture of rage and bewilderment. How do we fight an enemy we can't find? We don't, said a new voice from the chamber entrance. Everyone turned to see Admiral Kextera of the Hegemony Fleet Command entering with a small group of senior military officers. The Admiral's biomechanical implants flickered with stress indicators as she approached the leadership platform. Admiral, Chancellor Vorth acknowledged. Your assessment? I've consulted with our best tactical minds. The conclusion is unanimous. Conventional warfare against these forces is impossible. They possess every possible advantage while we have none. Surely our fleets, General Thok began. Our fleets are useless, Admiral Kextera interrupted. In the past 2 days, the humans have demonstrated the ability to disable 49 major installations across 12 star systems. They did this without losing a single ship or taking a single casualty. Meanwhile, every defensive measure we've attempted has failed completely. She activated her personal display, showing tactical analyses from recent encounters. Look at these engagement patterns. They appear exactly where they choose, strike with perfect precision, and vanish before our response forces can even detect them. We're not fighting a conventional enemy. We're fighting a force that exists outside the normal rules of warfare. What do you recommend? Chancellor Vorth asked quietly. Admiral Kextera's expression showed the difficulty of her words. Immediate acceptance of their surrender terms. Continued resistance will only result in the complete destruction of hegemony military power. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted about 10,000 years of hegemony dominance, about the impossibility of surrender to a species they had tried to exterminate, about the collapse of galactic order. Through the chaos, Zektar found himself thinking about the intelligence reports he had studied. The humans could have begun their campaign with devastating attacks on Council leadership. They could have targeted civilian populations to maximize terror. They could have used weapons of mass destruction to eliminate entire worlds. Instead, they had methodically disabled military installations while avoiding casualties. They had offered surrender terms that preserved Council leadership and territorial integrity. They had demonstrated power while showing restraint. "Chancellor," he called out during a brief lull in the arguing, "I request permission to speak with the human leadership directly." For what purpose? To clarify their exact terms. If we're going to make this decision, we should understand precisely what surrender means. Chancellor Vorth considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. Establish communication. The main display flickered to life, showing Admiral Sarah Chun aboard her command vessel. Behind her, Zektar could see representatives from dozens of different species, the alliance that the Council's actions had inadvertently created. "Admiral Chun," Zektar addressed her formally. "I am Ambassador Zektar of the Kethari delegation. We would like to clarify your surrender terms." Admiral Chin's expression remained professional, but firm. "Ambassador, our terms are straightforward. Complete cessation of hostilities, dissolution of the hegemony's military structure, and establishment of a new galactic government based on equality between species." "What about territorial control?" Minister Yull asked. "Existing territorial boundaries will be maintained for now, but no single species will hold dominant authority over others. The new government will include representation from all galactic civilizations." General Thok stepped forward aggressively. "And if we refuse?" Admiral Chin's expression didn't change, but somehow her presence became more intimidating. "Then, we will systematically dismantle every Council military installation in the galaxy. Your fleets will be disabled, your weapons neutralized, your infrastructure rendered inoperable. This will continue until resistance becomes impossible." "You're talking about the collapse of galactic civilization," Minister Yull protested. "No," Admiral Chin corrected. "I'm talking about the evolution of galactic civilization. The current system is based on fear, oppression, and the threat of extinction against anyone who challenges established authority. We're offering a chance to build something better." Ambassador Zektar studied the human admiral carefully. "Admiral, why are you offering surrender terms at all? You clearly possess the power to simply impose your will." Admiral Chun was quiet for a moment before responding. "Because we remember what it felt like to face extinction. We remember the fear of watching an entire species marked for elimination. We don't want to rule through terror the way the Council has." "But you will if necessary?" "If necessary, yes. We won't allow the galaxy to remain under a system that threatens genocide against species that seek freedom." Chancellor Vorth stepped forward. "Admiral, we need time to consider. You have 90 minutes, Admiral Chin interrupted. "After that, we begin Phase 3 of our operations." "What's Phase 3? Admiral Kextera asked. "Complete neutralization of Council military power. We will disable every warship, destroy every weapons platform, and eliminate the hegemony's ability to threaten any species ever again." The transmission ended, leaving the Council chamber in tense silence. Finally, Chancellor Vorth spoke. "We will vote. All in favor of accepting surrender terms." Slowly, reluctantly, hands began to rise around the chamber. Zektar raised two of his forearms. Minister Yull raised his tentacle with obvious reluctance. Admiral Kextera nodded her acceptance. General Thok remained defiant. "I will not vote to surrender." "The vote is 12 in favor, 1 opposed," Chancellor Vorth announced. "The motion carries. Prepare surrender documentation." As the chamber began to empty, Zektar remained behind, studying the tactical displays that showed the scope of human operations across the galaxy. In less than 3 days, humanity had gone from apparent extinction to absolute dominance. They had not only survived the Council's ultimate weapon, they had turned it into the catalyst for galactic revolution. By trying to eliminate humanity and its allies, the hegemony had created the largest, most technologically advanced alliance in galactic history. The age of hegemony domination was ending, not with gradual decline, but with sudden, complete transformation. And somehow, despite everything that had happened, Zektar found himself cautiously optimistic about what might come next. For the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy would not be ruled by fear. It would be ruled by hope. 1 year later, Admiral Sarah Chun walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station, the massive space habitat that served as the headquarters for the Galactic Democratic Alliance. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see dozens of ships from different species working together on construction projects that would have been impossible under the old hegemony system. "Admiral," called Commander Elena Vasquez as she approached, "the Council is ready for your final report." Sarah nodded, adjusting the collar of her dress uniform. Today marked the first anniversary of the hegemony's surrender and the establishment of the new galactic government. It seemed appropriate to reflect on how much had changed. They entered the main assembly hall, a vast chamber designed to accommodate representatives from over 60 different species. Unlike the old council chamber with its hierarchical arrangement, this space was organized in concentric circles that gave equal visibility to all participants. At the center of the assembly, a mixed group of humans and former hegemony species worked together at integrated stations. The sight still amazed Sarah. Ketheri technicians collaborating with human engineers, Vraxian security officers training alongside Altarian peacekeepers, Fennec traders sharing routes with human merchants. Admiral Chun called Secretary General Zektar from the speaker's platform. The former hegemony ambassador now served as the elected leader of the new government, a position he had won through genuine democratic process rather than species-based appointment. Sarah approached the central platform, where representatives from across the galaxy waited to hear her report. "Secretary General, honored delegates, I'm pleased to present the first annual review of galactic reconstruction efforts." She activated the holographic display system, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Green indicators marked worlds that had successfully transitioned to the new government system. Blue markers showed ongoing reconstruction projects. Yellow markers indicated areas still requiring assistance. 12 months ago, we faced the choice between galactic war and galactic transformation. I'm happy to report that transformation has proceeded better than our most optimistic projections. The display zoomed in on specific regions. Former hegemony military installations have been converted into research facilities, medical centers, and educational institutions. The weapons that once enforced oppression now power the infrastructure of cooperation. Representative Thrall of the Zephyrian delegation spoke up. "Admiral, what about resistance movements?" There were predictions of widespread rebellion against the new system. Sarah smiled. "Resistance has been minimal and localized. It turns out that most species prefer freedom to oppression, even when that oppression was familiar." The display shifted to show economic data. Trade between formerly hostile species has increased by 400%. Scientific collaboration has produced technological advances that benefit everyone. Cultural exchange programs have connected civilizations that had been isolated for centuries. "What about military considerations?" asked General Kekstra, the former hegemony fleet commander who now served as the Alliance's defense coordinator. "Have we maintained adequate security?" The Alliance Defense Force has successfully integrated personnel and technology from 43 different species. Our distributed command structure and dimensional defense capabilities provide security levels far superior to the old centralized system. Sarah paused, thinking about the irony of the situation. The technology that had allowed humanity to escape the Omega device was now being shared freely with former enemies. Dimensional warfare capabilities, quantum stealth systems, and advanced energy weapons were being distributed throughout the galaxy, not as tools of conquest, but as guarantees of mutual defense. Secretary General called Minister Yull, who had retained his position through democratic election. "What about the long-term sustainability of this new system?" Secretary General Zektar stepped forward to answer. "Minister, that's precisely why we're here today. The success of this first year proves that cooperation is not only possible, but profitable for everyone involved." Sarah nodded agreement. The old hegemony system required enormous resources to maintain military dominance over unwilling subjects. The new system channels those same resources into infrastructure, education, and development projects that benefit all participants. The display showed massive construction projects across the galaxy. Former military shipyards now built exploration vessels and cargo haulers. Weapons factories had been converted to manufacture medical equipment and scientific instruments. The industrial capacity that once supported oppression now supported prosperity. Admiral, called Representative Mora, the former chief technician who now headed the Alliance Science Division. What about humanity's special status? Some species have expressed concern about human technological advantages. This question had been anticipated. Sarah activated a new section of the display showing technology transfer programs. All-dimensional warfare technologies developed by humanity are being shared freely with Alliance members. We've established training centers on 40 worlds where any species can learn to use these systems. Why? Asked General Kekstra. Sharing such advanced technology reduces your strategic advantages. Because strategic advantages based on technological secrecy create the conditions for future conflict, Sarah explained. We learned from the hegemony's mistake. Trying to maintain dominance through superior force leads inevitably to resistance and rebellion. Secretary General Zektar added, the humans understand that true security comes from mutual cooperation, not unilateral superiority. By sharing their advantages, they ensure that no single species can threaten the others. The assembly hall fell quiet as delegates considered the implications. Representative Thrall spoke first. Admiral, this approach requires enormous trust. What prevents a species from using these technologies against the Alliance? Sarah's expression became more serious. Nothing prevents it except the understanding that betrayal leads to isolation. Any species that attacks Alliance members faces the combined response of 60 civilizations equipped with dimensional warfare capabilities. She gestured to the display, which now showed the vast scope of the Alliance network. Under the old system, conquest was profitable because it provided access to resources and territory. Under the new system, cooperation provides the same benefits without the costs of warfare. What about expansion beyond the galaxy? Asked Minister Yell. Human exploration capabilities could extend our reach to other galactic systems. Already underway, Sarah confirmed. Alliance exploration fleets are mapping nearby galactic clusters. But expansion will follow the same principles as internal development, voluntary cooperation rather than forced conquest. The questions continued for another hour, covering everything from trade regulations to scientific ethics to cultural preservation policies. Throughout the discussion, Sarah was struck by how normal this process had become. Former enemies debating policy details with the same passion they had once reserved for warfare. Admiral, Secretary General Zektar said as the formal session ended. Do you have any final thoughts on this anniversary? Sarah looked around the assembly hall at the diverse group of representatives who had once been part of a system built on fear and domination. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council tried to eliminate humanity because they feared our rapid expansion and unconventional methods. That fear led them to reveal their ultimate weapon and their willingness to commit genocide. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Today, the same species that fired the Omega device are working alongside humans to build exploration vessels that will carry mixed crews to other galaxies. The technology that was meant to destroy us has become the foundation for unprecedented cooperation. And the future? Asked Representative Mora. The future belongs to anyone willing to work for it. The galaxy is vast enough for every species to find their place. The universe beyond our galaxy offers unlimited opportunities for exploration and development. We no longer need to fight each other for resources when we can work together to find new worlds and new possibilities. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Sarah remained on the speaker's platform, watching the interaction between species that had been enemies just 12 months earlier. The transformation still seemed almost miraculous. Commander Vasquez approached. Admiral, you never told them about the real reason we shared our technology. Sarah smiled. What reason? That we learned something important during our evacuation. True strength doesn't come from what you can destroy, but from what you can build. The hegemony was strong because they could eliminate threats. We're stronger because we can create opportunities. That's exactly right. The Council's mistake was thinking that eliminating us would solve their problems. They never considered that helping us succeed might have been a better solution. They walked together toward the observation deck, where Earth was visible through the massive windows. The blue-green world looked peaceful from this distance, showing no signs of the desperate evacuation that had saved humanity from extinction. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't escaped? Commander Vasquez asked. Sarah considered the question. Sometimes. But I think the more important question is what happens next. We've proven that cooperation works better than domination. Now we need to prove that it can work permanently. You think there will be challenges? Absolutely. 60 different species with different values, different needs, and different goals. There will be conflicts, disagreements, and probably some serious crises. But we've established something the galaxy has never had before, a system based on choice rather than force. They reached the observation deck, where other Alliance personnel were gathering to watch the anniversary celebration fireworks. In the distance, ships from dozens of different worlds were preparing synchronized displays that would honor both the old civilizations and the new cooperation. Admiral, Commander Vasquez said quietly, do you think the galaxy is really better off? Sarah looked out at the diverse fleet of ships preparing their celebration. Then, at the peaceful world where humanity had evolved from a single species into part of a galactic community. Ask me again in 100 years, she said. But, right now, for the first time in galactic history, every species has the opportunity to reach their full potential without fear of extinction. That seems like a pretty good foundation for the future. The fireworks began, painting the void with colors that represented every world in the Alliance. As Sarah watched the display, she thought about the chain of events that had led to this moment. The Council's attempt at genocide had backfired completely, creating the largest alliance in galactic history and ushering in an age of unprecedented cooperation. They had tried to eliminate the human threat and discovered instead that the real threat to galactic peace had been the system of oppression they represented. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of the Alliance had just begun, and somewhere in the vast reaches of dimensional space, the technology that had saved humanity continued to evolve, ensuring that no species would ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. The galaxy was finally free.